Hello. We are cross-linked to Patreon. Welcome to any Patreon people. I had a public event. I think you can see it really well from right there. Mirrors are funny, aren't they? Things get turned around sometimes. Have you all ever seen one of these little toys? Almost there. And at my public event, I had this among other toys on my table for interaction, because we can connect with things and we can get interested in things more easily if we can touch them. I see the lag. It'll be fine. I don't know if this has like a name for it. But the heat that comes from my body, the energy that comes from my body, warms up the fluid on the inside, which causes the fluid to expand. As it receives that energy, it expands, it takes up more space, which creates a pressure up through the body into the upper container. And it will keep moving upward in that way until there's an impasse of the capacity available, of the volume that is available. At which point I can reverse the polarity and I can push all of that back down again. And it has occurred to me that I would benefit from having a yo-yo here in the office. You want to learn how to yo-yo? I used to yo-yo a lot. But there's this idea, sorry, I forget to not put my hand on the table to make it shake. But there's this idea of cycling up, down, around and around and around and around, so that we can keep that energy in motion. That's how we can do work with said energy, is energy in motion that creates change in the system. We can think of that as work. That's just the physical definition. Definitions are really useful. Definitions help a lot. I think I left all of my drinks out in my exercise space. So I'm gonna go get them. And while I'm doing that, take a breath. Take a breath all the way in hold it, and then let it out. And I'll be right back. Pressure, pressure. The breath, the respiration is a pressure system. Just like this, that opens, expands to pull air in by creating negative pressure, also known as vacuum. So we open to create the pull, the drive, the undertow, the current of breath into the body. Expand in order to receive the breath. But it's not because there's a wind in here that's forcing itself into me. It's because I am inviting that breath to come in by creating space for it inside me. And then when I'm ready to release that breath, and there's a closure, and there's a contraction and a condensation and a pressure pushing out, receiving, pushing out, waves on the beach, but it's pressure in, pressure out, pressure into, pressure release. And it's the same thing that's happening here. Is that there's cyclical movement of pressure going up, pressure moving down, around and around we go. So what happens, talking about the pressure itself is cyclical, what happens now if there are two sources of pressure? Let me fill up into this body a little bit. So here's some of that capacity. Here's some of that energy that we're wanting to work with. Here's pressure number one. Now what happens when I apply pressure number two? And in this case, pressure number two is enough to overpower pressure number one. Interesting. Probably because this is a smaller area than this, which means it's more concentrated, because my two hands, as far as I can tell right now, are pretty much the same temperature, and they're both connected to me. So I have one core temperature that is distributing into my extremities. And so when I apply pressure from both directions, it is theoretically an equal pressure. However, the concentration in this case is different. And the area of higher concentration of that pressure, because it's a smaller area, it's more specific, it's more precise, concentrated, was overpowering to the unconcentrated, less concentrated, more spread out, more diffuse, less focused polarity. So as you listen today and as you breathe along with me, feel that as a cycling pressure and keep it moving. And that is how We can think of calibrating our cycles, our rhythms. Biology is cyclical. Everything is a feedback loop. Nature is cyclical. Everything is a feedback loop. We have cycles, we have seasons, we have circadian rhythm. It keeps going, it keeps going, it keeps going. If it isn't, then we can ask questions about what is happening then. Do we have stuckness? Do we have escalation? Do we have repression? Is there something gumming up the works here? Why isn't that energy flowing efficiently through the natural cycles? That energy is a wave, energy moves in cycles naturally. So do we, naturally. Unless it's being obstructed in some way for some reason. And that's burnout, and that's autoimmune, that's dysregulation, that there is energy present in the system that is not mobilizing in a healthy, balanced, rhythmic, repetitive, predictable manner. And I have some squiggles on the board that I know those of you watching at home might not be able to see perfectly, but I'm going to use them to talk about this concept of calibration. So one of the things, maybe if I draw it darker, you can see it. Can you see that? Still not really. Big waves. Ooh. I didn't know it was doing that. I apologize. Big waves. Up and down with intensity. I don't know why it just auto-zoomed. I'll have to investigate that. So up and down with big intensity. That's one cycle. I really don't like that. Zoom back out. Tell it to zoom back out. Now then, in the middle here, what we have, I don't like it. I'm sorry. In the middle here, what we have is we have a small line. See, now you can't even see what we're trying to look at. Oh my gosh. Technology. Squiggles. Small squiggles. Irregular squiggles. Very different from this one big oscillation. And we can think of this one big oscillation as this grounding frequency, inside of which there are all kinds of other fluctuations that are happening simultaneously. This is what's going on in our physiology all of the time. So this little pink line here, little squiggles, dysregulated squiggles, they're not organized. They're just squiggles. That's different than the waveform oscillation. So that would be the difference between a regulated function and a dysregulated function. And both of these we can feel. We can feel in our body. Calibrating intentionally to something that's more organized, something that's more of a rhythm, creates felt shifts in the body experience. Now then, noticing I've got my little purple line here, which is a nice organized waveform, but it's not nearly to the degree of intensity that our initial anchoring frequency might be. So we can think of this, if this big waveform here is our circadian rhythm, night and day. We're awake and then we're asleep. Big, predictable, organized, grounding oscillation. But on the course of any given day, we're going to have other oscillations, other periods of time where we're higher energy. Hopefully when we first wake up in the morning, we feel energized. If we have a big breakfast or we have a busy morning, we might feel lower energy a little bit later after that. That's normal to have those kinds of smaller fluctuations within the single oscillation of any given day. And that extrapolates infinitely in all directions. That extrapolates over the course of a given week, of a given month, of a given moon cycle, of a year, and the seasons through the year that fluctuate. And it also extrapolates smaller and smaller and smaller from a single day into a single hour, into a single minute, into a singular breath in and out. And that's what all of these other little waveforms that I've drawn that you can't see very well are representative of. So at any given moment, there are various frequencies available within the body that one could attune to if one were so inclined. And that's where the breath can be a very powerful tool to intentionally calibrate in that way. So we breathe in and we feel the pressure, feel the space that your breath occupies in your body, and stay soft around the edges to hold all of that space. Claim that space, own that space within yourself without fighting it or resisting it or straining for it. And then just let it out. Breathing in, breathing out is one oscillation. That is a grounding, anchoring oscillation, is one breath in and one breath out. I don't know why it's doing that. Welcome if you're watching. Feel free to say hello or ask a question. The next word I had on my paper here is community. And now I'm wondering why I went straight to community from calibration when I was brainstorming this earlier. Because I teach self-calibration. I teach intrinsic calibration, that the organism in question, within the context of its personal environment and within the context of its personal subjective experience, interoception, the emotions, the memories, the set points and baselines and beliefs and expectations that is the individual, that individual can calibrate itself in context with its environment in order to create more subjective comfort and regulation, in order to smooth out those waveforms in the subjective experience, so that when we have a stimulus come into the system, whether it's from the environment, a loud noise, a bright light, a big crowd, an emotion, a stimulus that comes into the system that then activates this wave of intensity that says action required. And that's really all it's saying is action required. And we'll attach all kinds of stories to that wave of intensity. And sometimes those stories take on a character all to themselves, that when we experience this wave of intensity in our body, that it seems threatening or unsafe or unwanted unto itself. Usually, that's not entirely accurate. Usually, all that's happening is that there has been activation of energy in the body that now needs to run through the natural cycle of processing in order for the body to metabolize that wave. And so allowing this wave to move through like a pressure system is a skill. And it happens within the self. It happens in the individual. And what I have learned in my work with individuals is that the desire to do this work in space of community is really strong. We like having other people around us so that we feel supported and protected and witnessed and joined in this work, in this processing as we stir the soup. That we're doing that in community. That feels good. And part of the reason why it feels good is absolutely evolutionary, anthropological, that humans evolved in community, in society with each other, and we learned to depend on each other. What I offer here is self-regulation, self-calibration, so that it is easier and healthier and more cooperative for that individual to show up in community. The community does not feel like something that like there's scarcity around, that like I need community if I'm going to be okay. I need community if I'm going to survive the night. That feels precarious. That doesn't feel like safety to me. To me, that feels like I'm externally focused and I've got some dependency happening. And we can talk more about attachment styles. But for me, knowing that I can calibrate myself and knowing that I can be okay, I can survive the night on my own if I have to, that's really important for my underlying sense of safety. That's a really important frequency for me to be able to calibrate to. And I have found it to be deeply medicinal to be able to self-calibrate. And when I am sharing these skills in the space of clinical work, I can objectively observe that it is medicinal and very regulating. Now, the exciting thing about that, which is why I wrote community down as well, is that once you get a lot of individuals, you get a community of individuals who all have these skills for self-regulation, for self-containment. Now you've got a community of individuals who are all well and strong and capable for whatever the needs are of the community. In which case now, next on my list is co-regulation. And that's what happens when we do feel safe in our community, is that our body, our nervous system is able to take that crowdsourced sense of safety in as medicine, but only if we trust the environment, only if we trust the other individuals who are there, only if we trust ourselves enough to settle in and open and expand and receive. So when you breathe in, trust that breath to fill into the space and stay soft around it, because there's no benefit for straining to bring it in. Just let it. Make room for it. Allow it. And then hold it and own it. That's your breath. That's your space. That's your willingness. And then nod your head and feel that cooperation. Feel that intrinsic trust. It's tangible. The last word on my list today is orientation. And we've spoken about orientation a lot. This whole idea of up, down, moving, finding that center of gravity. Oh, there it went. And the same thing here. This idea of pressure, moving up, moving down, moving in, moving out, orienting. Where is the pressure coming from? What direction is it moving towards? Because if we've got a lot of different frequencies all in the soup together, we want them to at least be moving in a, dare I say, communal trajectory. Generally, we're all going in the same direction. All of the different parts of myself are working towards a shared goal. Now, how many of them are conscious for me? That's what's going to give me that much more agency in my trajectory. And so orienting into the body, orienting literally, physically, which way is up, which way is down, forward, backward, side to side. Get your legs spread out and feel yourself move around in your vertical axis and feel the pressure of your breath in and out, and orient that trajectory wherever it needs to go. It is October the 1st. October is my birthday month. So happy birthday to me, and happy October time to the community that is receiving this. If you have questions, if there's something that I can help you with, get in touch with me. I'm easy to get in touch with. I will have updated information about somatic journeying available on the Patreon, let's say within the week. And somatic journeying will be back very soon, and we will be back in community with each other very soon. And I feel like there was a lot to say today. Does it make sense? I like it when things make sense. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all of your work. And I'll see you next time. All right, signing off. Goodbye.